Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, men of Morehouse and guests, to today's Crown Forum. Now, if there are any representatives from Harry Medical College or the Morehouse School of Medicine, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. Young men, today's assembly will focus on leadership. One of the two hallmarks of the man of Morehouse, the Morehouse man, the other being, as you know, service. Today we are blessed to have in our presence an outstanding leader in the field of medicine and medical education, primarily medical education, Dr. Wayne J. Riley, who will be introduced by our president. But before we proceed, we will have prayer provided by Dwayne Alexander Jones, class of 2014. And I'm going to ask at this time for all of us to turn off our cell phones, smartphones, and electronic devices out of respect for ourselves and particularly our speaker and president today.
Let us pray. God, we are grateful for this moment. We are grateful for the opportunity to come together in contemplation of what it means to be leaders. We are grateful for this institution that challenges us to strengthen our resolve, to expand our horizons, and to test our boundaries so that we can become the kinds of transformational leaders that the world so desperately needs. We move ahead fully conscious of the awesome weight of responsibility and possibility that is now laid upon us, and we ask for guidance as we do the work of building a world community that is reconciled in peace and love. In your name we pray. Amen.
Before we have the occasion, please be advised all students are to remain in their seats during the proslude, which follows the college's hymn. Then, only then, will you be dismissed and the scanners will be activated. At this time, Dr. Ajit Samerstein, class of 1982, and the director of Morehouse College's Office of Health Professions will give us the occasion. After the occasion, the program will proceed as printed. Dr. Samerstein.
Good morning. President Robert Michael Franklin, our distinguished guest, Dr. Wayne J. Riley, men of Morehouse, faculty, administration, staff, my fellow Morehouse men, and of course our friends and supporters of our beloved institution. Developing leaders at Morehouse College is a tradition. It's simply what we do. All you have to do is take a moment to reflect on our history, and what one finds are numerous success stories of developing great leaders who have impacted society positively in various positions, locally, nationally, and globally. In our history, you will find Dr. Donald R. Hopkins and his commitment to eradicating guinea worm in Africa, the ministry of Dr. Calvin Butts III, the distinguished career of Mr. Julius Coles, which includes his service as former U.S. ambassador to Senegal, the late Honorable Maynard Jackson, former mayor of the city of Atlanta, the thought-provoking brilliance of Shelton Spike Lee, the service of James R. Hall, retired Lieutenant General in the U.S. Army, Brother Sanford Bishop, who is fighting for equality and fairness right here as a congressman in Georgia. We have leadership, examples of educators such as Dr. Samuel Du Bois Cook, my president, Dr. Hugh Morris Gloucester, Dr. Walter Massey, and of course, our 10th president of Morehouse College, Dr. Robert Michael Franklin. And this is just to name a few. Of course, one cannot talk about leadership without recognizing the personification of change reflected in the sacrifice of our brother to whom this chapel is named after. A Morehouse man who, with other warriors, championed a movement which recalibrated society's set point at a time when our country was in turmoil and the social conscience of a nation was at stake. The fact is, Morehouse men have always taken on the responsibilities and challenges of leadership front and center. Frequently, they have found themselves in the heat of battle by taking on positions that may not have been popular for the time, but was simply the right thing to do. With this tradition, it is altogether fitting that we set aside a Crown Forum that focuses on and celebrates who we are as an institution, what we do, but even most important to the men of Morehouse, what is expected of you. Dr. Howard Thurman, Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays, Dr. Hugh Morris Gloucester, and countless others who have gone before you have set the stage. It is my belief that they look to you from above and smile, because they see in each of you the potential and promise that you will not only excel in your chosen disciplines, but become men of virtue and integrity who are committed to the service of humankind. Faculty, staff, administrators of the college share in this promise that amidst the darkness, you will let your candle shine. And as born leaders, continue in our tradition of making positive change locally, nationally, and globally. Again, as future Morehouse men, this is what is expected of you. When it comes to healthcare, Morehouse continues to produce clinicians who have taken on leadership roles in the communities they serve. To date, our institution has developed well over 1,000 physicians and over 300 dentists. In these ranks, you hear the voices of Dr. Lewis Sullivan and Dr. David Satcher, whose voices have been heard and continue to be heard in their effort to address healthcare disparities and in doing so, improve the lives of others. Today, more than ever before, we need more voices to articulate the concerns of the underserved, aged, and the impoverished, not just because these sectors of our society reflect growing numbers of citizens that look like you and I, but because our social conscience tells us it's the right thing to do. Young men of Morehouse, you're being groomed to become the voices of tomorrow. But to serve our nation effectively, you must be informed about the issues. I cannot guarantee the challenges of tomorrow will be easier than the challenges of today. But because you'll be equipped with the knowledge, the set skills, and training you need, I know your voices will not only be heard, but will also make a difference in the lives of others who have been left behind, others who have lost sight of the American dream, others who no longer believe in a world where we are brothers and sisters keepers, others who in their desperation have lost voices of their own and will depend on you. We are pleased to have in our midst today a speaker whose outstanding career is a testament to how one life can make a difference in the lives of others. It is so fitting that Dr. Riley is with us today, and I challenge each and every one of you to seriously take to heart what he has to share. After all, it is part of our African tradition and heritage to be schooled in the wisdom of the village elders through oral tradition, which for centuries is how the lessons of life were effectively passed down and true leaders were born. My young brothers, a lot is expected of you. May the love of God guide your individual journeys, and love for Morehouse always live in your hearts. Thank you.
To Dean Darden, our distinguished guest, thank you to Brother Durden and Dr. Oliver, to Dr. Samarasingh, and Brother Jones, and all who gather today. We are grateful for this day of gathering in Crown Forum. And I'd like to ask, before I introduce our distinguished speaker, how many of you saw the presidential debate last night? Outstanding. For those who are viewing through the streaming audience, almost 100% men of Morehouse viewed. And I read in Twitter, I was on an airplane last night, unfortunately, and when we landed, read that there was quite a strong turnout for the viewing parties. So I want to commend SGA and others who hosted these events. Well done, gentlemen. I will take a moment as soon as I can to view the actual and full debate, but I've been listening to some of the pundits, some commentaries about the art of debate, challenges and observations about Mr. Romney's performance and President Obama's performance. Some noted that at times both of those distinguished gentlemen seem not quite ready for prime time, and we will take note of that. But as I heard that comment, I thought about this Leadership Academy, Crown Forum in particular, as a time to prepare each and every one of you to be ready for prime time. And there were some traditions in the old Morehouse that I think we've gotten a little away from that we need to reclaim more and more. That has certainly been the point of the Renaissance theme, of looking back as we look forward and retrieving the best of yesterday into the present as we face challenges and opportunities of tomorrow. In an earlier day, this Crown Forum would have been across campus in Sale Hall. Have you all been in Sale Hall? Well, you know that it was an intimate gathering, packed into Sale Hall. Attendance was taken based on where you were seated. Dean Brazil used to stand and talk to the young men about how to prepare themselves, and he'd say things like, when you go over to Spelman or Clark College to visit a young lady, you should always take a gift. Take some box of chocolates or take flowers. This was old school, brothers. I know this is not something. This was old school, right? President Mays would sit there and nod, and Dean Brazil would say, you take flowers and take some chrysanthemums over to the yard. Young ladies like flowers. And one diligent young brother was sitting there in the third row of Sale Hall taking notes. I know you all taking notes with your handheld devices today, but he was taking notes and he interrupted. Dean Brazil, how do you spell chrysanthemums? And the dean paused a moment, looked down and said, roses. Take roses. They like roses too. So. The point is, be ready, brothers, for prime time. Let me just make an observation, because I've been watching some of you in your performances in student government and elsewhere. When you are on stage, for instance, there is stage etiquette. Sitting up straight, many of you will appear on television. Having an appropriate tie and shirt and suit for television appearances, a power tie. We like maroon at Morehouse. Sitting up straight, keeping one's legs closed, not open on television. A smile, a pleasant look. Again, it's being ready for prime time. It's being ready to take command of the microphone and the audience rather than looking unready. So bear these things in mind as you all prepare for future interviews. There's another dimension of this. It is audience etiquette. And I really want to commend the men of Morehouse. In the months ahead and in the past, we brought controversial speakers to this platform. And I've always admired that the men of Morehouse sit quietly, they listen. There's no inappropriate sounds from the audience, but you are attentive, you weigh what is being said. During Q&A periods is a time to challenge, and when those are not available, after the program. So I just want to observe that's been a part of Morehouse tradition that I hope will not change. Well, let me move ahead. As Dr. Samarasinghe has noted, we are in the midst of a renaissance of health careers at Morehouse College. There are legends in this community, Dr. Mapp, Dr. McBay, any number of leaders today, Dr. Dean J.K. Haynes, Dr. Cook, members of the biology and chemistry departments and throughout our science division, and a renaissance of health careers being led by Dr. Samarasinghe, Dr. Cheryl Franklin, and others have played a role. And today's speaker contributes to that tradition. I might note, incidentally, that our brothers in law, politics, government, foreign service are now talking more and more about the need for a renaissance and a reinfusion of energy in our pre-law program. So you will hear more about that shortly. Today it's my distinct pleasure to welcome to Morehouse Dr. Wayne Joseph Riley, a longstanding friend and conversation partner. He's the president and CEO of Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee. Dr. Riley received his undergraduate degree from Yale University, something we can pardon, a master's degree in public health from Tulane University, and his medical degree from the Morehouse School of Medicine, and an MBA from Rice University's Jones Graduate School of Management. Prior to assuming the presidency at Meharry, Dr. Riley served as vice president, vice dean, and associate professor at Baylor College of Medicine. Previously, he served as an assistant chief of medicine at Ben Taub General Hospital and was a practicing internist. He was also an adjunct professor at the Jones Graduate School of Management and the founding faculty program director of the Baylor College of Medicine, Jones's Graduate School of Management Certificate in Medical and Healthcare Management programs. He's a life member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity and a member of the Chi chapter of Sigma Pi Phi fraternity. Dr. Riley maintains a number of civic memberships, including the board of directors for the Nashville Chamber of Commerce, the Middle Tennessee Council of Boy Scouts of America, and the Rotary Club of Nashville. He's a distinguished leader in higher education. When Dr. Riley and I were classmates together at the Harvard Graduate School of Education as new presidents, we compared notes and we had good conversations, and over the years it's been my great pleasure to come to know him well. He continues to be a stimulating conversation partner, a thought leader in higher education, and it's our great pleasure to welcome him here to this Center of Producing Renaissance Men. He is a Renaissance man himself. We welcome to the podium Dr. Wayne Riley.
Good morning, men of Morehouse. Now, my time is short with you, men of Morehouse, so I'm going to get right down to business. And I want to talk to you about healthcare. And I know some of you have no interest in pursuing a career in medicine or dentistry or anything having to do with what I do on a daily basis. But men of Morehouse, please listen. No matter what field you go into, healthcare is going to be a part of your world whether you want to or not. And I will share with you some things today that I think you need to be aware of as learned men of this great academy. And that is that in spite of this beautiful campus that we have here in AU Center, I spent 4 years here of my life. I received my MD degree right here. I still remember it. I should kiss the ground, Robert. I was a senior class president in the class of 1993 at Morehouse School of Medicine. I stood right about here giving a commencement address as the student body president. And so this is special for me. But men of Morehouse, hear me well. Beyond this great neighborhood here, there is a worrisome and I would suggest thorny reality faced by many in our black community, in our Latino communities, and our poor communities. And that is that there are frustrating and real health inequalities. That healthcare is not being extended to everybody in the same way that it should. Now, I don't want to alarm you, men of Morehouse, but I want to lay some facts on your consciousness this morning. African Americans are 4 times more likely to undergo a leg amputation or develop poor circulation in their legs, something we take for granted. We walked in here today. But the odds are that some of you will end up with a leg amputation just because we're African American. The age-adjusted death rate for the black population is 26% higher than that of non-Hispanic populations. Hispanics, for our Latino brothers, are less likely than non-Hispanics to receive major procedures in 38 of 63 different disease categories. African Americans are significantly less likely than whites to receive major therapeutic procedures in 77 disease categories. African Americans with coronary artery disease or history of heart attacks are significantly less likely than their white friends to receive the appropriate procedures, even when all the data is the same. Hispanics are almost twice as likely as non-whites to die from complications of diabetes. For our Native American brothers and sisters, they disproportionately die from diabetes, liver disease, cirrhosis, and accidents. Now, men of Morehouse, I can go on, but I'm not. I think you kind of you understand the picture that the health of our nation, the health of the African American community is very important. Because after all, men of Morehouse, it doesn't matter whether you're going on to be the next rap mogul, the next banker, the next great pastor of mega churches all over this country. Healthcare is going to touch you whether you know it or not. And that's why it's very important that even at this stage, like I said, even if you are an English major and you're really just interested in African American literature and you don't want to deal with too much science other than what the dean tells you that you have to do to get past the distributional requirements, that's okay. But I can assure you that if you just think of your own family situations, you start thinking about the health problems of your loved ones, it kind of puts it in perspective. The average age of life expectancy for African American men is 72 years old. The average life expectancy for the same white male is nearly 10 years longer, almost 84 years. Brothers of Morehouse, we are dying too early. My own father died at age 71. I have a new goal in life, men of Morehouse, live past 71. And so even in our circumstances, we have to understand that health care is not something that we let the women in our lives worry about, or they should worry about, let the guys the guys who are going into medicine and dentistry worry about, that are pursuing PhD degrees in biomedical science. It touches all of us. And the key thing is, if you don't become aware of health issues, even if you're not interested in health care, it's going to impact you, it impacts the American economy, and it impacts your ability to live the good life. Now, Dr. Franklin and I agree on this. We want you to live the good life. That's why you're here. We want you to be materially successful, spiritually successful. We want you to contribute to your communities financially and time. We want you to give back to this national treasure, Morehouse College. But none of it can happen if we don't become more aware of health care and its challenges. Now, I hope you watched the debate last night. I did, and Robert, it really was quite interesting that right within 10 minutes of the debate, the Twitterverse was lighting up the whole time, but the consensus among the pundits was that the president wasn't on his A game last night, and that Governor Romney really did deliver a good performance. But men of Morehouse, if you listen to the answer about health care, what our dear president did not tell you, and I wish he had, is that his health care bill, the Obamacare bill that he's now accepted, which I did not like at first, the name. I love the bill, but I thought the name was derogatory, but he's embraced it as his own. Men of Morehouse, the President of the United States laid on the Congress a bill that will extend health insurance to 32 million Americans at least. Half, 15 million, are people that look like you and me. And I fault the President of the United States because he hasn't gotten that message out in our communities. This bill, the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act of 2010, is good for you, it's good for your parents, it's good for your sisters, it's good for the people you love. And we need to be sophisticated enough to rebut some of the negativity about the Patient Protection Act. This president put his presidency on the line to get health care passed. And it's not just an abstraction. You just heard the figures I just gave you. We have serious issues in the African American and Latino communities around health care. Black men are dying too young. I didn't even give you the age rate among African American males and African American females because I think you know it already. So this president really stuck his neck out to take care of us. And I wish he would say that better. But that's how important this is, Madam Morehouse. Health care is not an abstraction. Even if you have no interest again in it, it's not an abstraction. It's something that all of us have to be aware of. Now, let me pivot to those of you who are interested in health care. Facts. I just read this on the plane coming in, Robert. Over the next 3 to 5 years, 4.2 million jobs will be created in health care. 4.2 million jobs will be created in health care within the next 5 years. The top 10 occupations in terms of job growth, the top 20, among the top 20, the top 10 are health care. The median salary for those who go into health care is $85,000. Men of Morehouse. You can buy a BMW with that kind of wage. I got 2 of them, I'll admit. But the point I want to make to you, for those of you who look at people like me and some of the other healthcare leaders in town, well, you know, Dr. I don't like blood, and I don't like all that stuff. Well, guess what? There's other things in healthcare, my brothers, that you can do that we need. Have you ever thought about healthcare administration? To be a leader of a health center, to be president of a hospital. Do you know that some of these CEOs make $1 million running hospitals? So healthcare administration, we need more people like you and us at the table making decisions about how to provide healthcare in healthcare facilities. So think broadly about healthcare careers. We need PhD-trained healthcare scholars. We need PhD healthcare economists, political scientists who study healthcare and its organization, sociologists who study the differences among groups in terms of healthcare. So just don't think about healthcare as just being what I do, physician and dentist, but think broadly in terms of your career search to look at something other than just those type of careers in healthcare, but to think broadly. Again, my brothers, 4.2 million jobs are going to be created in healthcare. Healthcare is virtually recession-proof. There's always going to be sick people. There's always going to be death and disease. There's always going to be a need for people to organize healthcare services and make sure that it gets to the communities that need it the most. So think broadly about your careers. I know many of you are struggling to figure out, you know, what am I going to do? I'm majoring in English, I'm majoring in political science. I don't know whether I want to go to law school or want to do this or, you know. Think about healthcare. And I want you to come talk to the healthcare advisors. They can talk to you about more than just medicine and dentistry. They can talk to you about the whole broad range of healthcare careers that we need more of us participating in, Men of Morehouse. I can't tell you the number of meetings I go to around the country. I walk in, I'm the only black male. You know, and I'm used to it now. Robert and I are used to it. He has the same experience too. We're used to it. But, you know, we've got to do better. We've got to have bright young men like you who are trained at this great institution to start making these decisions to be in those circles of power. And healthcare is a huge circle of power. So again, Madam Morehouse, this is a little short presentation by myself because I believe that leadership is something that we need desperately in our community, and that this great institution under this great president, my dear friend Robert Franklin, and the great faculty and staff and deans are making leaders. And you are the next leader. You are the next leader. All of you are the next leaders that need to come behind people like Robert Franklin and I to continue to fight the good fight. So men of Morehouse, continue what you're doing. Think about your life vis-a-vis the facts that I gave you, that healthcare is not just an abstraction. It's important for our community. It's important for our economic development. It's important for our social development. It's important for you personally, because I want you to live a long, prosperous, and virtuous life. But that can only come if we are mindful of health and well-being. So men of Morehouse, be careful. Take care of yourselves. Study hard. Make sure you learn to take in the balances of the stresses of life. Life is stressful as a professional, but you can do it. Others have done it as well. And it's my fervent hope that one day I can walk into some of those rooms, from the White House to the Department of Health and Human Services to the National Institutes of Health to the boardrooms that I'm privileged to walk into, and to see more of us in those boardrooms making those decisions. So good luck, men of Morehouse. Keep it up.
Thank you, Dr. Riley. You have challenged those of us who have not considered careers or particular interest in science and health to recognize that health issues impact all of our lives, and certainly our families' lives, and we should give due attention in our courses and in our studies to what is it that we should learn here and how we can apply. And to those who have an interest, to dig in, to work hard and prepare for extraordinary opportunities in this dynamic economy in the healthcare field. Dr. Riley, we're grateful for your presence today. You stand tall as our visionary medical alumni, Dr. Lewis Sullivan, and Dr. David Satcher, and others who are transforming the nation and serving us well. We are appreciative of your words and your presence, your leadership at Meharry. And at this time, I'd like to present to you, and ask that you come up, this token of our appreciation as our Crown Forum leadership speaker today. We ask that you enjoy and continue to represent us well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, let's stand for the college hymn.